Shalom, everyone, and welcome to Coffee and Connection, week 194. So excited to be with you all. There is, I think, such an important topic that we can talk about today that I see come up in conversations I'm having with women, and that I know is very timely, and it's one that we can all really struggle with, right? And here we are, we're in the 9 days, the time leading up to Tisha B'Av. And I was talking to my, when I was putting my sons to bed, Motzei Shabbos, so at Shalosh we just kind of like gone over some of the halachot, some of the laws of the 9 days. And so my son was like, okay, so what are we supposed to do? Like we had been talking about those things that you're not supposed to do. And, he's not really the one doing the laundry. He's not the one, making the food, right? So he was like, wait, so what are we supposed to be doing during this time? And I was like trying to think how to kind of put it into a framework that he could understand and that was relevant to him. So I'm like, well, what was the first thing I said? I was like, well, um, I don't know what, like something like step on your clothes before you wear them and, make sure you don't eat any leftover schnitzel and try to feel sad about the fact that there's no base of Mikdash. And it really hit me how much like that, even though that's the most important part, that's the essence of why we have all these halachas, that's the essence of what we're doing, we can kind of forget it or we can kind of get stuck in like, well, what does that even feel like, right? There's this reality that although we know that we're missing the base of Mikdash and we know that we're not in the ideal state as the Jewish people, that like, what does that really mean? Like, what are we really missing, right? Because, like, on the one hand, we can we can come to Israel, Baruch Hashem. We can live here, thank God. We can go all the way to the Kotel. We can, you know, daven in so many holy places. And yet, and I think we've talked about this in other coffee and connections, I believe, like realizing like we're just not, we're still not there. But what does that even mean? What does that even mean, right? I think I've given the mashal before that I've heard about Tisha B'Av of like how like we're so close, but yet it's like getting to someone's door and knocking on their door, but then they're not home, right? And that's what we're still, no matter how much we have, there's still much that we're missing. And on the other hand, we can also kind of feel some of the pain. There is so much like that we can think about, even in the last 100 years, the last 50 years, the last 2 years, so much pain of the Jewish people that we can think about, that we can connect with, right? Whether that's physically, spiritually, emotionally, everything that's not in its ideal state. Yes. And there is something powerful to that. There is something to connecting to that pain. At the same time, there is, because that is part of what Tisha B'Av is about. But at the same time, there's the reality that that is all an offshoot. All of that can happen because we aren't in the ideal state, meaning there is still something to really trying to actually connect to like what's missing in the fact that we don't have the base of Mikdash. What's missing in the fact that we're in exile? I have one rabbi who likes to say like we're so disconnected from the fact that it's exile that now we just call it the diaspora, right? Like we don't even necessarily feel it. The way my husband always talks about it, I think in the name of the Maharal, he talks about, and I'm sure not just, I think there's Gemaras that talk about how the base of Mikdash is like the neck of the world. And if your head has been disconnected from your body for so long because there isn't a neck, you may actually start to forget what it actually is like to be connected. And I think that's really the essence of it, of why we struggle so much to feel like, what does it mean not to have a base Mikdash? Like, how sad am I really supposed to be? Okay, I can feel sad about the state of the Jewish people. I can feel sad about the state of like Jewish history. I can feel sad about things that have happened. But to really feel sad about the loss of the base of Mikdash, we have to actually take time to really feel that pain, to really understand, like, wait, what are we missing? Because we're so disconnected from it, we don't even necessarily understand what it means to not have it. And so there is, you could say, so like, why do we have to sit in the pain? Why do we have to actually realize it? Isn't it better to like not be depressed and bothered by it? And the answer to that is Yes, most of the time, right? It isn't Tisha B'Av every day. It isn't the 3 weeks every week. It isn't, but there is a time of the year and some people, and certain times of the day and certain times of the year that we do, there is something to feeling it. And that's a very interesting question. Like, why? Why is it so important to feel sad, to feel in mourning over something that we could so easily say we don't really even need to, like, it's we have to tune in to feeling a loss of something we don't even feel? Like, that's kind of strange. Why take the time? It's one thing if, like, you're upset about something, and sometimes one of the exercises I give women is like, instead of being upset all the time, give yourself a set time to feel upset about it. But here we're talking about something that we don't even feel upset about. That's like so easy to be disconnected from. Why set a time to be upset about it? Why set a time to mourn about it? Why is that important? And this is really the key to understanding why this time is important and how this works in so many other areas of our lives, okay? If we don't really feel what it is that we're missing. Yes, we can go about our lives in a bit of a better state, right? We'll be happier. We won't feel depressed all the time. We can feel grateful and gracious for everything that we have. And that's all good stuff. But we're also not going to have the inspiration, the drive to say, wait, what can I do to change this, to get out of this non-ideal state, right? If we're just like, okay, so as much as I would like to say I feel I'm missing the base dish, I don't really miss it. And like, okay, it's an ideal, but I'm not there. And I will talk about how we can kind of feel it a little bit more or a lot more, please God. The the there's something here about actually feeling it so that we can get really real with ourselves and feel a drive and desire to change the state, to allow ourselves to create something different in the world, right? And I see this come up when I'm talking to women about their relationships, any pain that they're feeling in their lives. There is a big push to be positive, to be grateful, to be happy, to be even keel. Everything's fine, everything's good. I make do, I'm grateful, I'm happy. And there's something beautiful about that, of course. But here's and nobody, I never want someone to sit in pain. I'm not looking, if I ever ask you, like, if you ever spoke to me and I was like, well, what's this, like, how is this affecting you? Right? Or what's like the cost of this in your life? What's the pain that you're feeling? It's not like I want anyone to be in pain. I don't want you to be sad about anything that's going on. But the issue is that if we don't allow ourselves to feel pain, then it's going to take away some of the drive and the desire to make a change. And here's the key: to get out of a state of pain that we actually are in, even if we're not fully feeling it. See, that's the thing. When we don't realize that we're in pain, when we don't realize that something's missing, we might think everything's fine. But that doesn't change the fact that the pain could be happening and we've gotten to the point where we are immune to it. It doesn't mean that there isn't a negative effect of what's going on. It just means we've become accustomed to it, right? I feel like I've talked about this recently, but I don't remember where. There's this concept of, there are babies, lo aleinu, it's a horrible thing, that are born without an ability to feel pain. And you know what happens with these children? They don't live very long. They often don't live into adulthood. Why? Because pain is a signal to the body that something is wrong. And if you can't feel pain, then you can't acknowledge that something is bad or off or, hurting you or dangerous, to stop being in that situation, right? To pull your hand out of the fire, to make sure that, whatever is bothering you, if something's cutting off circulation, God forbid, or something hurt you, that you get help for it, you deal with it. And that so often can be a problem in our lives where something is bothering us, something is having a negative effect on us. Maybe it's affecting our health, maybe it's affecting our energy levels, maybe it's affecting our sense of self, maybe it's affecting our, the way we're acting with others. Maybe it's affecting our attitude. Maybe it's affecting the way we think. Maybe it's affecting, the our relationships and the effect that that can be having. And we could be so not wanting to face that, not wanting to deal with it, not wanting to feel the pain of it, that we ignore it. And then we never get to work towards fixing it, dealing with it, improving it. Does this resonate with any of you? Is this connecting? Can you see yourself or like understand something about what you may be experiencing? I'd love to hear. See, so here's the thing. How do we connect more to the loss that we're feeling around the base of Mikdash? I could tell you that when I was a child, a teenager, all the way up until I was going into my first few months in seminary, I did not only did I didn't feel connected to anything around the base of Mikdash. I remember feeling like I'm supposed to cry on a fast day. I'm just hungry. I don't really know what's going on. And I also would feel like very afraid for people to talk about these topics, like the base of Mikdash, Mashiach, like it was scary. Why? Because it was unknown. Because it was like this amorphous thing. Now, it's true. We don't know what it will be. We don't know for sure what it will be like. What will happen when Mashiach comes? We don't know. One thing we do know is that, please God, Be'ezrat Hashem, B'mheira B'yameinu, in our days, very soon, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll have a Beis HaMikdash. And the thing that really helped me have not just to have a desire for the Beis HaMikdash and Bezrat, and through that, like really feel this desire for Mashiach, which is something we're meant to feel, right? It's one of those things like they act like you're like we're supposed to feel, right? So was actually when I had my a Rebbe that I had in seminary, and then continuing in the learning that I've been doing to really learn about the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because the more I learned about it, the more I could I had something to ground myself in an image of being there. Right? So this is just personal for me. What I found so helpful is to learn about it, to understand what will it look like? What will it be like in because that allowed me to concretize it not as something like who knows, this weird thing, but something concrete, something that I could picture myself there. And that allowed me to actually get a desire for it. And actually, it's allowed me to make decisions and do things in my life that I hope, please God, I'm doing whatever I can to make it happen, right? That's all any of us can do. And when we ask that question, what can I do to bring it forward? At one point, I was giving tours of Machon Mikdash. I love talking about the Beis Hamikdash and teaching about it. And it really inspires me so much also to work on helping women build their homes, which is our mini mikdashes. I love that concept. And what I found again is that the more I could learn about it and get real with what is, even if it's hard for me to picture, I can't go there. And it is sad. It's hard to be at the kotel when you know that there's something even more that we're supposed to be experiencing. There's a pain. There's a pain to be stopped, right? Like the in the image of you're at someone's front door and you can't get in. They're not home. And yet, it's what allows me to feel a desire that can inspire action. And that's what's also so important in anything in our lives that we want to do. When we have a desire for something more, whether it's more in our relationship with our husband, more in our relationship with our children, another goal that we're working on. Sometimes that goal is scary. I'm working on something right now, and I keep feeling a little bit of this feeling of like unknown. And I kept thinking, like, I'm scared, like it keeps freaking me out. And then I realized that it's the unknown, and fear and excitement can actually feel the same in our bodies. So I'm actually very excited for this. And I'm excited to share more with you about it as it comes more into fruition, please God. But I wanted to, we have to, when we go back to this idea of when we have when we are feeling like when we're thinking of something different in our lives, it can be freaky. If right now our relationship is not where we want it to be, then thinking of a relationship being better, more connecting, more intimate, that can actually be terrifying. Why? Well, because first of all, anything that we're not familiar with, any change is terrifying. Our brain is terrified of anything it doesn't know because our brain's job is to keep us safe. And the way our brain keeps us safe is by we keep doing it does the things it already knows what to do, right? Because then at least it knows what to expect so we can deal with it. When there's an unknown situation, the brain freaks out. Like, what do you mean you're going to change things? Even if it's changing it to exactly something that you've always wanted, it can be scary. It's very scary because it's different. It's change. It's unknown. It can also be scary because in the past, maybe you've tried and then it didn't work. So there's a fear of failure. There's also a fear of success. What if I get there and then I'm not happy? What if I get there and it's not the way I want it to be? What if I get there and then I mess it up? What if I get there and I don't know, I don't know how to handle it. It's too much for me. I'm overwhelmed. All these different things can happen that have us not even want to think or even work towards the thing that we want. And yet, what I'm sharing here is that there is something so important about acknowledging and thinking about not only the pain of not being there, the pain of where we are now. As I was saying, it can be painful to think about how something is painful. It can be difficult to think about how what we're paying, the cost, the 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 sadness, the difficulty, the loss of where we are. And it's also so powerful to think about what we want to create. Both of those, even though they can both be scary and painful, yes, even what we want can actually allow us to take the steps that we can each take to move forward. And that's really what these days are about. We're not in mourning and we go more and more into mourning. We're not in mourning because we're just meant to cry or because we have to be sad that the base of Mikdash was destroyed 2,000 years ago. It's not just about that. It's not just about crying about all the horrible things that have happened since all the way up until unfortunately we're still in difficult situations, right? It's more than that. It's acknowledging that all of that can happen, has happened because we're not in an ideal state and feeling a loss so that we can build something more, right? Yerida letzorach aliyah. It's a downer for the sake of an upper, right? We're meant to feel what's missing so we can feel an inspiration, a drive, a push to do something, to create something else, to ask the question, what can I do? What's in my hands? And so often what's in our hands is always going to be in our circle of control, in our circle of influence, right? In our own self, in our own family, in our own community. What power do we have? And that's really about saying like how can I, be my best self and bring more of what needs to be brought into the world, right? That's what we can do. And we do get to, it's so helpful to have these moments to inspire us because we know that the drive to change, the drive to shift can come from two places, as we were talking about, to the drive towards pleasure and also the drive away from pain. And so as we feel the pain of the 3 weeks, the 9 days going into Erev Tishba, well, this year it's Shabbos. So please God, saying I said on Shabbos, please God, we should eat meat on on Rosh Chodesh Av again next year, Be'ezrat Hashem. This should be the end. We should not have to go up anymore in the levels of mourning of this time period. And if God forbid we do continue into Tisha B'Av, but then we start to, from the middle of the day, we start to go up in, we start to lower the morning and we start to get ready for the next stage of the year. We start to get ready for our intense connection with Hashem. How powerful that our connection with Hashem follows the pain of being disconnected from Him, right? Even right after Tisha B'Av is Tu B'Av. And what is Tu B'Av? The oldest source we have of like the the furthest back you can go about what Tu B'Av is that it's 40 days before Rosh Hashanah. That 40 days before Hashem created the world, I think it's 40 days before Rosh Hashanah, right? 40 days before he created the world. 40 days before Hashem created the world, which was, a few days before Rosh Hashanah, right? 5 days before. Rosh Hashanah is the day that man was created. So 40 days before the world was created, right? And we know that 40 days before a, a soul comes down into this world, there's a cry out of who its soulmate is going to be, whatever that means. We don't have to get into the topic of soulmates because that could be such a topic of pain for so many people and it's so misunderstood. But the idea that Hashem's soulmate is the Jewish people. So even as soon as we leave Tisha B'Av, we start getting ready. It's Tu B'Av, it's Elul, it's Rosh Hashanah, it's Yom Kippur, it's Sukkot. We go up and up and up in our connection to Hashem. Oh, I'm so excited. I love that time of year. We get up and up and up in our connection to Hashem. And what allows us to go up and feel the desire for more of a connection is taking some time, yes, to feel the pain of disconnection. So sometimes, not all the time, there is the time to allow ourselves to feel what is missing, what is in my life is not the way I want it to be. What in my relationship, in my marriage, in my home, in myself is not the way I want it to be. And to allow ourselves to feel that, not to get stuck in it and dwell in it and get depressed in it. That's not what we're doing here, right? We take time to experience and like really get, like feel it, allow ourselves to acknowledge what's missing, acknowledge the pain, so that then from the pain itself, on Tisha B'Av itself, right, we start shifting towards getting closer and closer and closer to the way we want our relationship with Hashem to be, till we, all build little mikdashes in our homes, right? Not just in our homes, like connected to our homes. And please God, we will celebrate in the, to really be able to celebrate in the real mikdash, Bezrat Hashem, soon. So I'd love to hear your takeaways from this call. I hope that this is resonating. I hope that it's helpful. Please go ahead and put any questions or comments, any, takeaways that you're taking from this call. Towards a more connecting Tisha B'Av, towards a more meaningful Tisha B'Av, and towards, for your own self, for your own relationship. And I hope that this will help you. You're welcome to put it in the comments below wherever you're listening to this recording if you're not on live. And it is always such a pleasure to connect here with you. I look forward to our next Coffee and Connection next week. Please God, we'll be on the other side of this already and really allowing ourselves from that experience of feeling what's missing to be able to start to really experience the desire and the drive towards taking the action, right? Because that's what it is. Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot is action. It's action that we take from the experience of realizing what's missing in our connection. We can start to build and do and really get in tune with our own desire, which is what Elul is, right? It's et ratzon, desire to get closer and closer to Hashem, and Bezrat Hashem to also improve our connections and our desire for connection in every area of our life. So thank you all for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, may we all be blessed to live, love, and be loved with all our hearts. Only besorot tovot for all of Am Yisrael.